This is a tips and tricks video for Dark and Darker. I'm going to give you a bunch of random things that'll help you out, little things that you maybe didn't know about at all that can change the entire fate of your gameplay. So I'm just going to go ahead and get right into it and start throwing things at you in no particular order. So let's start off with something simple. Trade. You might know how to trade, but you can actually use trade to trade between your party members. So all you have to do is just go to one of these that nobody's in. I usually go down to one of these bottom ones, like the etc. trade post number 3 or whatever they have. And so you go in one, there's almost nobody. You'll have your friend join. None of these people are my friend, but if they were, you'd have your friend join, and then you just make a trade request with your friend, and then trade over whatever items you want to them. So you can do that to just trade between party members before a match. Now, there is a gold fee for that, but it's a pretty cool thing to be able to do in certain scenarios. If you just want to move a bunch of bulk gear over to someone else's stash, or move things between two different characters, because you can trade to a friend and then change to your other character and then have him trade back and then, move all your items from one stash to another if you have the little bit of gold. It costs 15 gold per trade. Now, this next one's subject to change in future playtests. It absolutely will change because it changed from the last one to this one. But when you go in, one thing that I always recommend doing is going to the Surgeon and the Alchemist. Now, in this particular playtest, which is playtest number 3, the basic healing potions only cost 6 gold, but heal 15 HP each. So these are generally the ones that you'll want to buy. So for me, I usually will buy 3 of these before a match, and then I'll go to the Surgeon and I'll buy 3 bandages. And the reason I buy 3 bandages, even though the bandages are worse HP per gold, the reason I buy them is because then I can double up healing, which is really helpful in the zone. I can pop a healing potion and then use bandages while walking in order to actually gain HP over the zone. So like the basic healing potion will basically neutralize plague damage, and then the bandages will actually bring you up above that slowly. But also on top of that, it's if you take little bits of damage here and there in fights and in PvE, you don't have to try to use other means to heal yourself. You have clerics, they don't have to waste their spells. If you're missing like 10 HP, you can top yourself off with a bandage instead of wasting a cleric heal or something like that. And while we're looking at these merchants, another really important tip is in between every single run that you do in the dungeons, you need to go back to the merchants and look at any relevant merchants for your class and see if they have things that you want to throw in your stash to collect. One in particular that's good for almost all classes is check the tailor, because he doesn't have it right now, but he'll often have Regal Gambison, which is something that any class can put on and gives a ton of armor. And his basic one, which he doesn't have right now, gives 38 armor, but it only costs like 13 gold, I think, in this playtest. So it's just a nice thing to stock up on and make sure you have a few in your storage at all times. So if you need a chest piece, you can just throw one on real fast. But whatever class you are, you'll go and see if there's anything that you need. In my case, this shield, for example, I need to collect this and put this in my storage because I need better shields as a cleric. You start with the really bad ones. But yeah, so you'll go through each one, go look at your weapons, see if there's anything crazy that you'll want that, whatever. Just get into a habit of doing this. It's a really important tip. Is just get in a habit after every match to check through all the relevant traders to see if there's anything really crazy that you would want or anything basic that you would want to collect for your class. So like, they don't have them right now, but rawhide gloves, if you had them, I would buy more because I usually like to have a few pairs so I can get bonus knowledge as a cleric. But yeah, just keep that in mind. Do that after every run. Another tip is in the character creation. If you are going to play with friends, consider coordinating what composition of team you want instead of just going randomly. Now, I know it depends on your friends and who you play with and how they work with you and stuff. But if you are going to, min-max your ideas and stuff, then you definitely want to put a lot of thought into what you want to do. So, for example, cleric with 2 fighters, 1 fighter wearing light armor, 1 fighter wearing heavy armor, or a cleric and a fighter and a ranger, or a cleric and a fighter and a wizard, or maybe 2 rogues and a ranger, or you can put a lot of thought into it. And doing it ahead of time is good because it takes a little while to level up your characters. So if you're playing with friends, you definitely want to make these decisions ahead of time. It'll save you a lot of effort and headaches later. All right, so let's jump into a match. First tip that I have for you is how to use magic. So if you don't really know everything about magic, the default keys, you can go to options and go to inputs and change keybinds, but by default, you'll hold E, it'll pop up the wheel, you'll mouse over what you want, then let go of E, and it'll swap to that thing. And then to cast, you're going to hold right click by default, and that'll get it charged. It'll hold it, and you can just walk around like this, and you can press F to cancel, or you can charge up like this, and then once you let go of right click, it will cast. But casting's a little weird because there's an animation for casting. So if I do this, you'll notice I'll let go, but it won't actually cast it for a second. It'll do an animation. At the end of that animation, depending on the spell, it will be hit scan, and it'll look exactly where my crosshair is right at that moment of release. So like May from Overwatch, if anyone knows the reference. So I let go, and that right then was when it hit whatever I was looking at. The next tip I have for you is combat. Skeletons are perfect examples of this. Enemies have rudimentary AI. They just walk at you, and then once they're close enough, they'll swing at you. You can block if you have a shield, but you'll have to actually block correctly. So if he's coming from above, you want to look up, and it's really inconsistent and weird sometimes. But the reason I'm showing this to you is not because of blocking. The reason I'm showing this to you is because it's a simple way to beat any enemy. You just walk towards them and walk back, and they'll just swing. So you don't have to take damage from almost any enemy other than archers are kind of dangerous. But you'll just walk forward and then make them swing, and then back up and then come in and swing. Now that's like the patient way to do it. Once you get really good at it, you can actually, you know, get a lot of swings in between all their attacks. But the basic form is just walk near them, then back up. That'll trigger their swing, and then you walk back in and swing on them. Another really important thing to know about is that on all enemies and everything, there's you know, headshots and stuff like that. So melee weapons in this game actually can headshot. So if I hit him in the head, it will do more damage than if I hit him in the arm or the leg or the chest. Also, where your weapon hits matters. So if I throw this on the ground so we can see here, if I hit with the end of my mace, it will actually do more damage. Whereas if I hit with the hilt of my mace or the bottom part like this, it will do less damage. All these things matter in combat and will affect how much damage you deal. The next tip I want to show you is something you really need to know about. So when there's something that you can't quite jump on, although I can jump on this, but there's some things you won't be able to jump on, and you'll actually be able to do it by jumping and then crouching while in the air. So left control makes you crouch. Well, you can jump and then crouch, and it'll make you lift your legs up into the air, which will make it so you can clear ledges that you wouldn't normally be able to clear and get on top of things you wouldn't normally be able to jump onto. And that's extremely useful to know in some scenarios in this game. You're able to get on things like torches and things you wouldn't normally be able to get on. The next tip that I want to give you is about the plague. So one thing that new players do, a big mistake that new players make all the time, is freaking out about the plague when in reality, or the zone, whatever you want to call it, when in reality, it does not do that much damage. You can actually hang out in the zone for a pretty long amount of time. Like I mentioned earlier, if you bring bandages and healing potions, you can hang out in the plague for like a good minute or two. And if you're a cleric, especially if you have the perks, I don't have a lot of perks for it right now in this brand new character I'm doing a demo on. But if you have the perks, you heal a lot and stuff, and you have a lot of will and stuff, you'll be able to sustain here for ages. And if you have campfires as well, you'll literally be able to hang out in the zone for like a good 5 to 7 minutes straight if you want to, basically. And the reason I'm telling you this is because there's a lot of times where, like, say I'm over in this place, and say I'm over in here, and I run into a team of 3, and I think if I fight them, I'm going to die. Well, behind me is the plague, or the zone. I always like calling it the plague. Well, there's no reason I can't just put my weapon away and then run away into the plague and then just go through here and then just slowly work my way in from another area. And this is something huge that you need to know about doing. Like, you can just run into the plague. It doesn't do that much damage, at least in this playtest. You know, you may be watching in the future and maybe they'll make it do more damage. But right now, I could just go to another room like this, and then here we go. And then I don't have to fight the people that would have otherwise killed me. Another really important tip is if by default you press X, it'll put your weapons away, and you run significantly faster when you don't have weapons out. And this is really important when trying to run away from people or when trying to close the gap on someone that you're chasing, which is something that's really important to know about at higher level play, to be able to hunt people correctly and chase people down or run away. And then another tip that I want to give you is the boxes. There's boxes and there's urns and things like that. If you're in a position where you aren't worried about making a lot of noise, and if you're just trying to get loot, you should always consider breaking every box that you see and every urn or vase that you see, because they'll drop items. And more often, boxes tend to drop gear, but not always. And the vases tend to drop sellables, but not always. But they're a great way to get looted up. So definitely consider just breaking all the vases and boxes that you see. Also, I have another tip for you, which I'm not sure I'll be able to do on this door. I'm going to open up this door to see if I can instead see it over here. Something really important is peeking through these grates. So you can see into a lot of rooms by looking through these, and then you'll be able to know if someone's on the other side without actually having to enter. And this is really important for scouting out danger and trying to find other players and stuff. But then another tip that's really interesting is, so say right now, if someone's on the other side, they would be able to see me like right through here. If they're looking, they would notice me right here, especially if I'm holding a torch. Well, something you can do is you can actually turn torches off. And if I turn this torch off, now it's dark right here. Now, when I'm looking through here, it'll be very hard for them to be able to see me through this door. Speaking of which, I just saw a player, and he probably didn't see me because I had turned the torch off, and it makes it really hard to see through these grates. But yeah, you can turn torches off in order to make it harder for people to find you, so you can just kind of lay in wait in the darkness and kind of just jump out at people or stay hidden or something like that. And that's very helpful at high-level play to be able to trick people and get things done. Also, another very important tip, especially when you're playing as a group of 3. So you see the blue portal is kind of hard to see right now because I'm in the plague right now, or in the zone. But obviously that's an escape portal. Most of you probably know how escape portals work. But something you need to be doing is as these zones get closer and closer to the end, you need to be acknowledging where each one of these is at and trying to like plan out your escape. If you wait too long to escape, then you won't have enough time sometimes to be able to find enough out portals or escape portals. So that's why it's really important to ahead of time be thinking about where are they, which ones have we secured, which ones do we have control of, where are the other ones at, where are the enemy players, are they going to be going for them, like how do we control this? Thinking about all this stuff before it gets down to crunch time is very important for trying to survive and escape from the dungeon. Also, that jump crouch thing, here's a perfect example of it being really helpful. If you jump across a ledge and crouch, it makes it easier to clear a jump like that. So that's also another thing that's helpful to know. Also, these 3-person down portals. So at least in this alpha test, they only have 3-person down portals and not 3-person escape portals. One thing that's really helpful to know about is in an emergency, if you're running out of time and the game's about to end and you're all about to die, sometimes it's better to just make a split-second decision to go down instead of escaping just because you're out of time. Which you'll see at the bottom right, that red bar above the minimap, when that goes all the way down to nothing, everybody in the zone just dies. So you can't just like wait till the zone closes and just heal it out. If that goes down all the way, then you'll actually just die instantly. So you do have to make a decision. So if last second you're out of time, just go down real fast instead of dying. It's definitely an option, especially if you still have 3 people alive on your team, or even 2. Another quick tip, if you go to the basement of the starting area, you can hit these dummies to see how much damage you do. And that's when you'll be able to see that you do different amounts of damage to different body parts. But you can go down there with your weapons in order to test your damage to get a better feel for how much damage you actually deal to some unarmored enemy. Another tip is those over there, those things. I'm looking at a shrine with a little orb. Those are resurrection shrines. If one of your teammates dies, you can go into his inventory and take his chest piece off, and there'll be like a soul heart thing. You put it in your inventory, and you put it on one of your hot bars, like 3 or 4, and then you can hold it in your hand. I don't have one right now to show, but I would hold it in my hand, and then I would go over to the shrine and resurrect him. Now, if you're not a cleric, it'll take some of your HP, and it'll res him with like 1 HP left, or something like that. Or not 1 HP, very low HP. But clerics can get a perk that'll make it so it's not as bad. They don't lose their own HP when doing it. But overall, that's how to res people, and that's really important to know about when you're playing with a team, because if you have res someone after they die, your odds of surviving and getting out of the dungeon go through the roof. And another really important tip is secret passageways. You can kind of see this one on the minimap. You look at the minimap at the bottom right, you see these 2 rooms are connected, but when you go here, there's just this. Well, there's things like this that you can just break with your weapon, and they'll lead to little secret passages that will connect different rooms or lead to a little secret room with a chest or something like that. So be aware of those and check those out whenever you can. And sometimes it'll be a lever. There'll be like a door, like a stone wall that you can tell can move. And usually there'll be a lever somewhere that you can pull in order to open it up, in order to go into a secret room, or whether they connect to another room or something like that. So secret passages are huge. Learning where they are and just being aware of them is definitely an important thing to know about. So another tip is with doors. Now, this is something really important, a few different things. You notice how long it takes to open that door at the bottom? Well, if 2 people try to open the door at the same time, it'll cut that time in half, and right there, it'll open instead. It'll cut that short. And the more people opening, the faster open. If 6 people to open the door, it would just open that fast. So every person opening it can contribute to opening it and make it open faster. And something else to know about is when you go through an area, you need to consider either leaving the door open or closing the door afterwards. You can close a door behind you. And this matters because if you leave it open, you leave yourself an escape route. And closing is faster than opening. So you can close the door, and then whoever's chasing you has to open the door, which takes longer, and then you can run away more easily. If you have a bunch of open doors that you ran through, you can go back through. Now, on the flip side, if you leave doors open, people can sneak up on you really easily. So you kind of have to make a decision between these 2 conflicting forces about whether to leave a door open or closed. Also, something to know about is that when you loot things, you can actually close them when you're done with them, or at least for chests you can. I'm actually not sure about coffins. We'll find out here in a second. So after you loot something, yeah, you can hold by default Shift and then press F in order to close the item. Now, this is something you'll almost never do. I never do this, but you could. So you could loot an entire room, and then you could close everything again, and then people wouldn't even know that you've been there. Now, there's definitely a time and a place for it, and there's some high-level strats you could do like that, but I just want you to be aware of the mechanism so you can brainstorm when or why you would ever consider doing that in your own gameplay. But just be aware, that's a thing that's kind of cool. Another tip that I have for you is back on the menu. Player list is down here. Here's where you can just find random people to invite to your group. You can look by class. You can try to find a cleric to go with you. You can see people already have parties. You can try to join someone who has party 2 of 3. Play with random strangers. Or if you have a friend, you can actually search their name and then try to find them. And if they're there, so I like, for example, there's a guy right there, Zimmy. Search him. And I could search for a specific person and invite them into my group. So that's how you play as a group, in case that matters. You didn't realize how that worked. But anyway, that's it for this video, guys. Those are a bunch of tips and tricks to help you out. Some low-level tricks, high-level tricks, and just a bunch of different tips and stuff that will make your gameplay better, more smooth, easier, make it easier for you to get out of dungeons and survive, and just play better in general. So hopefully that helps you out. Now you have some good tips and tricks to incorporate into your gameplay in Dark and Darker.